Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to continue on with this December series of Swedish beers that I've been doing for you. And for this one we're actually going to go and do a second visit to this brewery quite quickly. So we're going to head up to Göteborg once again, Gothenburg in English of course, and we're going to revisit Bryggeriet. And the last beer I reviewed from these guys was Göteborg's Porter, and today we're going to have a taste of their Julöl. And this one is described on Rate Beer as being an English strong ale, and it comes in at 5.8%, so should be a really quite nice one for us to try. And as you can see, the nice Swedish moose, or the reindeer on that one, not quite, yeah, I think it's more of a reindeer than a moose actually, but should be a very, very nice beer. It's got good ratings on Rate Beer and Beer Advocate, so very interested to see what this guy's like. So anyway, as is usual with my beer reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you do want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual website links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do from Bryggeriet in the fairly near future, and also all the social media things. That's the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Untappd for the channel. So feel free to get in touch with me by whichever one you like. Always interesting to hear from you guys, and your support is much appreciated. And to my Swedish viewers, I do apologise if any of the pronunciations aren't quite right, and please do recommend some Swedish beers that you'd like me to have a look at. So anyway, to tell you about Bryggeriet. Bryggeriet was founded in 2007 by three friends who often drank together in the same sports pub. So this was Peter Andersson, who was a salesman, Rodrigo Arvidsson, who was a finance man, and there was Thomas Bingebo, who was the brewer. And the three were largely inspired to start their own company because of the lack of variety of beer in Sweden at that time. It's only really the last 10 years or so, maybe a little bit less than that, that craft brewing has really taken off in Sweden. But Thomas has brewing experience from Ireland, and he also worked for Jämtlands Bryggeri before he became part of Bryggeriet. So the beers are now produced in the old Likholm brewery in Mölndal in Gothenburg, and they have steadily increased their capacity over the last few years. That old Likholm brewery is actually a really nice building. If you go on the website, you'll see all the pictures of it. Really quite a cool little building actually. But today their beers are available in various restaurants and bars throughout Gothenburg, and also in the rest of Sweden through Systembolaget. I actually ordered this one through the Systembolaget, through the online order system. But quite recently, one of the most interesting things they've done is that they've brewed a beer called We Can Do It, which was done in collaboration with a group called FemAle, which is a group of lady beer drinkers. And basically, they're a group that are trying to promote the drinking of craft beer among women. And there was an article I read about them, and it was quite interesting because quite a few of them were saying that whenever they went to a beer bar, people kept trying to offer them fruit beers and things, and they're like, no, we want to drink double IPAs and all of this. So the whole idea of FemAle is to try and show that women are interested in the proper craft beers, and to kind of promote them amongst women. So pretty cool group actually. So I'll try and put that article link for you in the description below, and you can have a look at it. But this brewery are really quite interesting. There wasn't too much information available on them, but yeah, that's your brief history of Bryggeriet. So just to list the other beers you can get from these guys, there's Glen No. 5, 12 Plato Lager, India Pale Ale, Vestkust, which is basically West Coast, Ebbet Ale, Göteborg's Porter, Julöl, which is this guy here, and Yentorget's Arbet Porter, which is a kind of Abbey Porter style beer, apparently meant to be really quite good. And I have to admit, I was really impressed with the Göteborg's Porter. You can go and watch my video that I did on that before. But anyway, without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. I'll just bring up the camera and let you have a little quick look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. This beer is a 5.8% English strong ale. There was one version of it was produced up until I think it was 2009. I'll just check the specs that I have on this beer. Yeah, Christmas special beer. The recipe was changed in 2009, and it's been hopped with Williamette and Cascade hops, and it's got a malt base of 6 different malts in there. They changed black malt for amber malt for black malt fairly recently as well. So they've played about with this beer a little bit since they've actually opened or actually started doing it there. And you can see on the back here there is the Göteborg's Porter. That's the lion, that's the brewery symbol there. It's actually really quite cool. You could see it better on the actual Göteborg's Porter beer, but you can see there's a nice reindeer and kind of Christmassy feel on this one, the nice snowflakes and everything like that. But looks really nice. On the side it says this is the Bryggeriet Christmas beer. Extra nice flavours. It's brewed with 6 malts, 5 hops. Yeah, and it just says it's, yeah, it should be. It's just basically says it's a nice winter warmer beer, and it's got a good taste. and it's made in a kind of classic British style. That's kind of what it's saying there. I can't really translate it literally yet. My Swedish isn't quite good enough, but yeah, an English style strong ale. So the fitting from, or the description from Rate Beer really does kind of hold for this one, I guess. And there you can see the Ocean Bryggeriet bottle cap on this one. So without further ado then, we'll get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting here. Quite looking forward to this one, if I can get the thing to stick. But as you can see, a nice kind of smoky opening on this beer. This one's a ½ litre bottle, in case you were wondering. It's a bit of an odd shape, so it's not really clear on the video, I guess. But we'll just leave it at that just now. That's about 2/3 of the beer in the glass. But yeah, as you can see, this beer's poured. It's actually a really quite dark ruby colour. I'm not sure how well you can see it. I'll put it over to the camera here. You can see, if I go behind it, it's actually a nice kind of dark mahogany colour, a nice dark ruby tint to this one. It looks really nice. It is actually very transparent. If I put my fingers behind it like that, I can see right through it, but I'm not sure how well you can see that on the camera. There is a good bit of transparency to this beer, but maybe just the dark colour doesn't let you see that so well. There's about a ½ finger of a kind of cream coloured head there, quite a few little bubbles going up towards the bottom of the head, and some bigger ones sticking towards the bottom of the glass. Looks very, very nice actually. Really quite attractive looking beer. Should be really nice for us to try. So let's give it a smell then before we get stuck into the taste of this one. Yeah, you can smell. It's a really big bready malt base there. It reminds me of some of these English bitter beers that you come across actually. A nice big kind of sweet bready malt base in there. Good bit of toasted caramel and butterscotch sort of notes actually. But yeah, there's a good cereally brown bready character coming out of this one. It is quite sweet, but there's a good bit of kind of sweet sort of red dried fruit coming out of this one as well. Sort of figs, raisins and plums. I would say it's probably raisins actually that's coming out of this one. There is a bit of the figgy character. Those are probably the two most prominent components of the fruit in this beer, but the biggest part of the nose really is that typical English bitter malt base in there, the big bready characteristics, the kind of rye bready notes. It smells very, very nice. As I always say with the beers, just take a little bit of time and actually have a good smell of them. So really, this one smells really nice. It's quite interesting to try this one. It's interesting to see these kind of English style of beers brewed in different countries, because most craft breweries actually stick to brewing these kind of big American imperial stouts and things like that, and some of the Belgian ales and the German styles too. So it's quite interesting to see the old English beers brewed in countries like Sweden. It'll be interesting to see what it's like. But yeah, without further ado then, let's get stuck into this beer. So this is the Julöl Christmas beer from Ocean Bryggeriet in Gothenburg in Sweden. Skål! That's really quite nice actually. Comes into the palate and it's really quite smooth. Yeah, just when you first take the beer in, as I always say, just sugar it around your palate a little bit and let the whole palate adjust to this beer. But yeah, when you take this beer in, that big bready character I was talking about just blankets the middle of your palate there. There's a good bit of a kind of cereally bitterness in this beer, and that just goes right in the middle of your palate, and you get a little bit of a kind of lingering dry character from that. It's a typical English bitter malt base that's in this one. There is a little bit of a kind of sweet, slightly sweet nutty flavour in there, a little bit of woody infusion. You can really taste that in this beer. As you move from the middle of the palate, which is where more of the kind of cereally characters there, that little bit of kind of dry, slightly bitter cereal character, if you move a little bit further out, you get a bit more of the sweet kind of nutty and woody flavours coming out of the beer. Yeah, in the middle of the palate, if you go right down the middle of the tongue, there's a nice sweet caramel flavour coming out of this beer. It blends together. The flavours in this one blend together really quite well. There's an element of a kind of darker, more roasted flavour in this beer too. It could almost be just a really small little bit of coffee, but that's very, very mild. It's mixing quite a lot with that sort of cereal bitter flavour that I was talking about in the malt base. You could be forgiven for thinking there is a little bit of coffee in this beer, and perhaps there is. Maybe there is a kind of very dark malt in here. They said it was 6 types of malt, so maybe that's where it's coming from actually. Yeah, definitely the main components of this beer really is that big cereally bready character. As I say, a little bit of caramel in the middle of the tongue and some woody and nutty flavours as you go further towards the back. It's really quite interesting actually, this one. If you move into the hoppy parts of the beer, move out towards the back of your tongue there, in the back corners of the palate, there's a good bit of earthy flavour in there, right in the back corners. It does have a good little bit of dry and bitter character there, but as you move further forward, the earthiness smooths out, and then round the front of the tongue, you've got a nice, smooth, grassy character coming out of this beer. Yeah, just behind the very front of your tongue there, there's a little bit of an oily bubble comes up, and that's where you're getting some of these fruity characteristics, and it's mainly a figgy flavour I think that's coming out. There's not really too much of that sharper element that you would expect of like raisins or plums. This is more of a figgy flavour that's coming out here. Really nice. Really quite an enjoyable beer, this one. I'm not the greatest fan of English bitter style beers. There are a few breweries back in Scotland at home that brew in this style, and I have to admit it's not a style that I enjoy too much, but this is actually a very nice and quite sessionable beer. It's quite a nice winter beer, I have to admit. But yeah, if you like the sort of English style of bitter beers, this one has all the typical elements that you expect of that style. And as I say, even though I don't really like the style, this one, you know, it's one of the ones that for me could perhaps encourage me to explore the style a little bit more and try and get used to it. But yeah, it's an interesting one, and it works well as a winter beer, particularly because of that more cereally malt base. It fits in with the idea of putting a bit more spicy character into your beer, so maybe that's why they decided to do this style for their winter beer. But in terms of the mouthfeel of this one, I would say this one's quite mid-bodied. The carbonation is quite soft. There's a good bit of oily character to it, but overall it's very, very smooth, and there's a little bit of a kind of toasted, roasted character to it. A little bit of juiciness from the fruity characters in the beer too, and as I say, there's a bit of dryness from that earthy hop in the back of the palate. But the one thing that really strikes me about this beer is how smooth the malt base is. Those nice big bready flavours that come out just work really, really well with it. So yeah, I mean, overall, as I say, a very interesting beer, and it's a good style, I guess, that for a Swedish brewery to do something a bit different. That English bitter style does have the cereal characteristics that you would really expect from some of these kind of winter warmer beers and things like that. So really quite interesting one. As I say, not my favourite style of beer, but you know, it's probably one of these ones that could convince me to go and explore the style a bit more. I said the same about sour beers, and then Bryggeriet actually I think have convinced me to have a bit more of a look at these. So maybe I'll have to do a few more English kind of bitter style beers in the fairly near future. But yeah, it's another really good beer from Bryggeriet. I would recommend that you go and have a look at these guys. As I told you in the video, they've got a whole host of different styles, so just pick a style that you like and check out the brewery. They're producing some really good beer there. I particularly like the Gothenburg's Porter, so I need to go and try maybe one of their lighter beers, like an IPA or a lager or Helles or something like that. I need to have a look at exactly what they do and do a lighter beer for my next review from these guys. But anyway, yeah, if you enjoy the English bitter style, go and check out the Julöl from Bryggeriet. Not sure how easily you'll find this, but maybe next year you can give it a go. But anyway, as always, if you have tried this beer before, please let me know your own thoughts on it in the comments section below. I hope you've enjoyed this beer review. To my Swedish viewers, please do let me know some other Swedish beers you'd like me to have a look at. Please subscribe to the channel, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Follow the social media things. I hope you're enjoying the series of Swedish beer reviews, and there's a few other random things in there as well for this December month, but I hope you're enjoying it nevertheless. I thank you again for watching my beer videos. Go and check out Bryggeriet from Gothenburg in Sweden, and I'll catch you soon with my next review. Skål!